Aloha, One Love Ohana. Thank you for joining us in this devotional time. My name is Bruce, one of your volunteers here at One Love, and I'm excited to share some time with you as I've been reading through the Old Testament book of Jeremiah. So if you'll pull that open with me and actually flip all the way to chapter 27, I'm excited to see what God has to share with us today through his prophet Jeremiah. Now, if you have the time, go ahead and pause, maybe read the whole chapter 27. I'll give you a brief summary of what's going on. This is during the time where King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon is actually conquering kingdoms and coming up to take over Judah, who right now is governed by King Zedekiah. Now, he doesn't know what to do, so he is asking the prophet Jeremiah what the Lord has to say. So we're going to pick up in verse 5, where the Lord is speaking through the prophet Jeremiah to King Zedekiah. And he says, verse 5, I have made the earth, the men and the beasts, which are on the face of the earth, by my great power and by my outstretched arm. And I will give it to the one who is pleasing in my sight. Now I have given all these lands into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, my servant, and I have given him also the wild animals of the field to serve him. Yeah, that's literally what I reacted when I read this. So we are listening to God saying that he is actually giving the land to Nebuchadnezzar. And he goes on in the following verses, if you read on, to actually even warn that if you do not, as he says, put your neck under the yoke of the king of Babylon, you will be further punished by him himself through the sword, disease, famine, and so on. So it's a really big ask to really see that the Lord our God is asking his people to be put under the king of Babylon. Now, how they reacted, I can only imagine, but I know as I struggle with decisions to make and maybe try to put it under God's hand, because sometimes I want to do it myself, it's hard. I might not agree. I think I have a better answer. I think I know what's going on. But if I get a different answer from God, how do I react and how do I trust in that? Well, what they did here, it seems they eventually listened to that advice. But the key thing is, if you go all the way to the last sentence of chapter 27, is where God makes a promise. In the very last sentence, he says, then I will bring them back and restore them to this place, which our history tells us is exactly what happened. The only country to come back fully intact after exile. So God has proven himself true and honest and fulfilled his promises time and again, which is where we can rest in his full assurance, our theme for One Love this year. So I want to encourage you, whatever you are struggling with, and even though it's hard to put it under God's feet, fall back on his assurance, as his promises have been true time and time again. And maybe that struggle is hard. It could be very difficult, but in the end, God's a little smarter than us and we can rest in that. Aloha, One Love.